Let me tell you something powerful. You have greatness within you. You have the ability to achieve far more than you ever thought possible, but it all starts with one thing: your standards. The truth is, the quality of your life will be determined by the standards you set for yourself, not by the circumstances, not by the economy, not by the world around you, but by the standards you hold yourself to every single day. Think about it. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your standards. If you want to live an extraordinary life, you need to demand greatness from yourself. And that starts with the standard you set for your thoughts, your actions, your energy, and your commitments. You want success? You want achievement? Then you have to commit to excellence. Excellence isn't a one-time choice. It's a standard you live by. You can't just do things when it's easy or when it feels good. You do it because you're obsessed with becoming the best version of yourself, even when no one is watching, even when it's hard. The world is full of people who settle. They don't ask for more from themselves. They don't push beyond their limits. They live within the boundaries of their own self-imposed comfort zones. But here's the reality. There's nothing extraordinary waiting for you in that comfort zone. Achievements, true breakthroughs, come when you stretch yourself beyond what you thought was possible. And that happens when you raise your standards. It's about living a life that demands greatness at every turn. It's about saying, I won't settle for anything less than my best. When you raise your standards, you start showing up differently. Your attitude changes. You begin to expect more from yourself and others. You'll notice that your behavior, your habits, your decision-making all start to align with the success you desire. But it doesn't stop there. As you raise your standards, you raise your resilience, your belief in yourself. Challenges become opportunities. Obstacles turn into stepping stones. And failure, it's just a lesson, not a defeat. You'll keep going. You'll keep learning because your standards demand that you never stop until you get where you're meant to be. Now, let's be clear. This isn't just about achieving things. It's about who you become in the process. High standards shape your character. They shape your mind. They shape the way you look at the world. The person you're becoming along the way is the true reward. It's not about a paycheck, a trophy, or recognition you get from others. It's about your self-respect. It's about knowing that you've done everything you could. You've pushed yourself, and you've never let yourself off the hook when things got tough. Your standards determine whether you settle for mediocrity or step into greatness. If you want to achieve something massive, something that excites you, then raise the bar for yourself today. Don't wait for things to change outside of you. Change the standards you hold for yourself, and everything in your life will shift. You will experience a transformation that you never thought possible. When you demand more, you will always, without fail, deliver more. The truth is simple yet powerful. Your standards are the foundation upon which your entire life is built. You can have all the ambition in the world and you can set the highest goals, but if you don't have high standards for how you approach those goals, you will never achieve what you're truly capable of. The world does not give you greatness based on how much you want it. It gives you greatness based on how much you demand from yourself. And that starts with the standards you set in every area of your life. When you think about it, your standards determine your behaviors. Your actions are a direct reflection of what you believe you deserve and what you believe is possible for you. If you settle for mediocrity, you will behave in a way that matches those low expectations. You won't push yourself to the edge. You won't put in that extra effort, and you won't go the extra mile because deep down, you don't believe it's necessary. But if you raise your standards, if you expect more from yourself, then everything changes. Suddenly, you're not just going through the motions. You're stepping into each day with a level of commitment and focus that most people can't even fathom. Think about some of the most successful individuals you admire. What do they all have in common? It's not necessarily their talent, their circumstances, or their resources, although those things can help. What they all share is an unyielding commitment to their standards. They hold themselves to a higher level than most, and that's why they achieve more. It's the standard they've set that drives them forward even when things get tough. They don't quit when it's hard. They don't back down when the challenges mount. They keep going because their standards won't let them stop. Now let's talk about what happens when you have low standards. If you're content with doing the minimum, that's exactly what you'll get. When you only do what's required, you'll only get the basic results, and you'll probably end up frustrated because deep down you know You're capable of so much more. It's easy to blame the circumstances, your boss, the economy, the competition. But the truth is, if you're not getting the results you want, it's because your standards are too low. When you operate below your potential, you are limiting your ability to create the life you deserve. On the flip side, when you raise your standards, you're no longer just aiming for the average. You're aiming for something higher. You're holding yourself accountable to a level of excellence that most people won't even consider. The beauty of this is that when you demand more from yourself, you become more. Will make better decisions, your work ethic will improve, and your focus will sharpen. The things that used to be difficult will suddenly become easier because you are constantly elevating your own expectations. Raising your standards forces you to look at the things that are holding you back. It demands that you let go of bad habits, poor mindsets, and limiting beliefs that have been keeping you stuck. When your standards are high, you are no longer allowed to make excuses for why you didn't give it your all. You are no longer allowed to say, I'll do it tomorrow, or this is good enough. Instead, you will push yourself to go beyond what's comfortable. You'll force yourself to be disciplined, to show up even when you don't feel like it, and to always be looking for ways to improve. Here's the kicker. When you raise your standards, people around you will notice. High standards are contagious. When you demand more of yourself, it has a ripple effect on those you interact with. People will begin to raise their own expectations. They'll see your commitment, your discipline, and your work ethic, and they'll realize that they can't settle for less anymore. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. When you commit to excellence, you raise the entire energy in your environment. But let's be clear, raising your standards won't always be easy. It's a challenge. It requires a level of personal responsibility and accountability that most people are not willing to embrace. It requires stepping outside of your comfort zone and doing things that are uncomfortable, unfamiliar, and sometimes even a little scary. But here's the thing. That's where the magic happens. That's where growth occurs. And that's where you start to experience the kind of results that most people only dream about. If you want to break through the limits of what you've already achieved and step into something extraordinary, you've got to raise your standards. You got to demand more from yourself than you ever thought possible. The truth is, you are capable of achieving far more than you ever imagined, but it all starts with setting a higher standard for what's acceptable in your life. The moment you raise the bar for yourself, you take control of your destiny. And that is when everything begins to shift. Excellence is not something that just happens by chance. It's a choice, a commitment, and a daily practice. The difference between those who achieve extraordinary results and those who settle for less is often as simple as the decision to live by high standards consistently. High standards are not occasional efforts. They're woven into the fabric of your daily life. If you are truly committed to excellence, you must make it a non-negotiable part of who you are. It's not about having a great day here and there. It's about showing up with your best every single day, no matter what. The first step to living with excellence is deciding that you're not going to allow anything less than your best effort. Excellence isn't about being perfect. It's about constantly striving to be better than you were yesterday. It's about always improving, learning, and pushing yourself. It's a mindset, a dedication, a refusal to settle for mediocrity even when life gets tough. When you make excellence your standard, it becomes a filter through which you approach everything. Your work, your relationships, your health, your goals. All of it must be approached with the same level of excellence that you expect from the world around you. Think about it for a moment. What happens when you show up each day with an average mindset, doing just enough to get by? You may get by, but you'll never reach your full potential. Excellence demands that you go above and beyond. It demands that you take pride in your work, no matter how big or small the task is. Excellence shows up in the details. It's in how you respond to challenges, how you treat others, and how you deal with setbacks. Every decision, every interaction, and every action is an opportunity to reinforce your commitment to high standards. Now let's break this down. Excellence isn't just about hard work. It's about smart work and focus. You can work hard all day long, but if you're not clear on your purpose and your vision, if you're not focused on what truly matters, you'll waste time and energy. Excellence is about being intentional with your efforts. It's about doing the right things at the right time. When you raise your standards and commit to excellence, you also commit to making better decisions. Your priorities shift You start focusing on the activities that bring you closer to your goals and let go of the distractions that only serve to drain your energy. This daily commitment to excellence also means that you have to be consistent. Excellence is not a one-time choice. It's the accumulation of daily habits that reinforce your standards. It's about making excellence your baseline, not the exception. When you make excellence your everyday practice, you stop waiting for the right time or the perfect opportunity. Instead, you create those opportunities every single day. Whether you're preparing for a presentation, handling a difficult conversation, or simply showing up for work, you bring your best because that's the standard you've set for yourself. Consistency is the key to mastering excellence. It's the difference between those who excel and those who never quite get there. You cannot expect to succeed if you're only committed to excellence some of the time. Real excellence comes from the relentless pursuit of improvement, even when it's inconvenient, even when you feel like giving up. The more consistently you show up with excellence, the more you will notice the positive impact it has on your results. You'll begin to see how your relationships, your career, and your personal growth all thrive under the power of consistent, focused effort. But here's something critical. Excellence doesn't always mean immediate success. You will face challenges, you will hit roadblocks, and you will fail along the way. But failure is not a reflection of your commitment to excellence. It's a stepping stone. When you live with excellence, you don't let failure knock you off course. Instead, you learn from it. You analyze what went wrong, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward with even more determination. Excellence doesn't avoid failure. It learns from it, it adapts, and it keeps going. The beauty of committing to excellence is that it transforms not only your external results, but also your internal mindset. You'll notice a shift in your confidence. The more you show up with excellence, the more you believe in yourself and your abilities. You won't need external validation because your standard of excellence will be enough to drive you. The internal satisfaction that comes from doing your best every day is irreplaceable. It's the reward that no one can take away from you. Living with excellence isn't about comparing yourself to others. It's about comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. Every day is a new opportunity to be better, to push harder, to improve in areas that you once thought were your limit. And when you make excellence your daily commitment, it becomes a habit, a part of your identity. It's no longer something you try to do, it's who you are. This is the power of high standards. They shape who you are and who you are becoming every day. And when you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, the world around you can't help but notice, and you will achieve things that once seemed impossible. When you raise your standards, something truly remarkable happens. Everything in your life begins to change. Your actions, your mindset, your decisions, and even the way you view the world around you will shift. Raising your standards is not just about wanting more or desiring success. It's about transforming the very way you approach each moment. It's about demanding that you show up as the best version of yourself, no matter the circumstances, no matter the challenges you face. The moment you make this choice, you begin to see life differently. You stop waiting for things to change for you, and you take responsibility for making those changes yourself. When you set higher standards, you stop accepting excuses. Longer. Give yourself permission to settle. Instead, you hold yourself to a level of commitment and excellence that pushes you to be better, to do better, and to think bigger. It forces you to become someone who is no longer content with just getting by. You no longer go through the motions or do the bare minimum. Instead, you approach everything in your life with focus, discipline, and a refusal to back down. One of the most powerful shifts that happens when you raise your standards is that you become more resilient. You'll face challenges along the way and you'll encounter setbacks. But when your standards are high, you don't let these obstacles derail you. Instead, they become part of the process. They become lessons. You learn, you adapt, and you keep moving forward. High standards push you to become stronger, more resourceful, and more persistent. You no longer see failure as something that stops you. You see it as an opportunity to grow and to rise above. But this resilience goes beyond just overcoming challenges. It impacts your decision making. When your standards are high, your decisions reflect your commitment to excellence. You become more strategic in your choices because you understand that every action you take, every step you make is either moving you closer to or further away from the life you desire. You no longer make decisions out of convenience, fear, or uncertainty. Instead, you make choices based on the vision you have for yourself and the values that guide you. You don't waste time on things that don't align with your higher standard. You start to guard your time, energy, and attention fiercely, knowing these are precious resources that you can't afford to waste. As you raise your standards, something else begins to happen. Your expectations of others rise as well. When you set high standards for yourself, you begin to expect more from those around you. You surround yourself with people who share your values and who push you to be better. You won't tolerate negativity or mediocrity in your relationships or your professional life. This doesn't mean you become harsh or critical. It simply means you begin to set boundaries and demand respect. You refuse to allow anyone or anything to drag you down. And the beauty of this is that it doesn't just help you, it helps those around you as well. People begin to rise to your standards. They begin to see what's possible when they commit to living with a higher level of excellence. Your commitment to greatness becomes a beacon that inspires others to do the same. One of the greatest gifts you receive when you raise your standards is a shift in your perspective. You start seeing opportunities where you once saw challenges. You start finding solutions where you once saw problems. Your mindset shifts from one of limitation to one of possibility. You begin to see that you are in control of your outcomes and that your results are directly linked to the standards you hold yourself to. When you operate at a higher level, your ability to recognize opportunities, to find creative solutions, and to leverage your resources becomes far greater than it ever was before. You start to notice that life is responding to you in ways it never did before because you've decided to show up differently. You've decided to stop waiting for circumstances to improve, and you've taken control of your own destiny. Another profound change that comes when you raise your standards is that you start to take your actions more seriously. Every choice you make, no matter how small, becomes significant. You realize that consistency is what drives success. You understand that the small actions you take every day compound over time, leading you to massive results. High standards push you to focus on the little things, the things that other people overlook. You start taking care of your health, your relationships, your finances, and your personal growth in ways that reflect the level of excellence you demand from yourself. The difference between success and failure often lies in these small, consistent actions. And when you raise your standards, you're no longer willing to overlook them. You become intentional in every part of your life. In short, when you raise your standards, you become a completely different person. You evolve into someone who shows up with integrity, commitment, and focus every single day. You stop making excuses and you start making progress. Your results reflect your higher standards, and as you continue to elevate your expectations, you unlock the potential for even greater achievement. The power of raising your standards lies in the fact that it changes everything about how you think, how you act, and how you live your life. It's not just about setting goals, it's about committing to the relentless pursuit of your highest potential. And when you do that, the world around you can't help but respond to your elevated energy, your vision, and your unwavering commitment to greatness. When you raise your standards, you're not just setting the stage for achieving external success or ticking off a list of accomplishments. What truly happens is that you are evolving, both internally and externally, becoming a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. This transformation is the most profound part of raising your standards because it's the kind of change that impacts every aspect of your life, far beyond just your goals or your work. It's about becoming the person you've always been capable of becoming, even if you didn't realize it at first. True success, the kind that lasts and feels meaningful, is rooted in who you become in the process. It's not about the material rewards or the recognition you might get along the way, although those can certainly be satisfying. No, the real reward comes when you look back at your journey and realize how much you've grown. When you raise your standards, you're demanding more from yourself, and in doing so, you start developing a mindset that is focused, driven, and confident. You develop a belief in your own ability to face challenges and rise above them, a belief that you can handle whatever comes your way. This internal growth is often much more important than the outward accomplishments. After all, you can achieve a great deal of success, but still feel unfulfilled if you haven't developed yourself along the way. It's about becoming someone who doesn't just meet expectations, but exceeds them. Someone who isn't waiting for permission or external validation, but someone who has developed the self-belief and discipline to push through any barrier, no matter how high it seems. High standards create a filter for your decisions, a compass that guides you through even the toughest of times. You become someone who shows up every single day with a sense of purpose and commitment, knowing that your success is a reflection of your personal growth, not just your achievements. As you raise your standards, you also raise your sense of self-respect. It's impossible to live at a high level without first building a strong internal foundation. The higher your standards, the more you begin to value yourself. You start to treat yourself with the respect that your efforts deserve. You begin to see your worth, not in terms of the external validation you receive, but in terms of the internal strength and discipline you embody. You honor yourself by refusing to tolerate mediocrity, by refusing to let yourself off the hook when things get difficult. That self-respect feeds into every aspect of your life, your relationships, your career, your health, and influences how others treat you as well. This process of internal growth doesn't just happen by accident. It happens because you've made a conscious decision to hold yourself to a higher standard. And that decision impacts every area of your life. You'll notice how your relationships start to improve. When you raise your standards, you start attracting people who share those higher expectations. You stop tolerating relationships that drain you, and you begin to seek out those who push you to become better. You also start to raise the bar for how you treat others. The way you interact with people shifts as you understand that treating them with respect, kindness, and integrity is part of the higher standard you've set for yourself. Your professional life also experiences a shift when you raise your standards. When you demand more from yourself, you show up with an attitude of excellence. You no longer do things half-heartedly or cut corners. You take pride in your work, knowing that every task you complete is a reflection of your personal commitment to greatness. As a result, the way you approach your career changes. You become more proactive, more driven, and more strategic in how you move forward. Opportunities that once seemed out of reach become attainable because you no longer allow fear, doubt, or procrastination to hold you back. You begin to see how the actions you take today compound over time, and you realize that the consistency and effort you put into your work pays off in ways that aren't always immediately visible, but are always significant. Perhaps one of the most profound shifts when you raise your standards is that you begin to develop a greater sense of gratitude. This gratitude stems from the realization that your journey is shaping you in ways you could never have predicted. You start to appreciate the challenges, the lessons learned, and the moments of struggle because they have made you stronger. You don't look at obstacles as setbacks. Instead, you see them as opportunities to reinforce your commitment to excellence. This gratitude not only makes you feel more fulfilled, but it also gives you a sense of peace and purpose in everything you do. Finally, when you raise your standards, you start to inspire others. Your commitment to excellence becomes contagious. When people see you showing up with discipline, focus, and integrity, they are motivated to do the same. Your example serves as a reminder that high standards aren't just for the select few. They are available to anyone willing to do the work. By living at a higher level, you become a source of inspiration for others, pushing them to elevate their own standards and reach for more. This ripple effect is powerful. The more you raise your standards, the more you contribute to creating a culture of excellence, both in your personal circles and in the broader communities you interact with. In the end, the true measure of your success is not just in what you achieve, but in who you become while pursuing those achievements. Raising your standards forces you to become someone who is focused, disciplined, resilient, and self-aware. It challenges you to be your best and to create a life that reflects your highest potential. This internal transformation, this journey of growth, is the real prize, the kind of success that lasts and fulfills you in ways that go beyond external validation. It's the kind of success that stays with you, that elevates your life in all its dimensions, and that enables you to make a lasting impact on the world around you. When you raise your standards, you unlock the incredible potential that lies within you. It's not just about setting goals or achieving success. It's about transforming into the person who is capable of achieving greatness. By holding yourself to a higher level of excellence, you elevate your mindset, your behavior, and your decision-making. You start showing up with discipline, focus, and an unshakable commitment to being your best, no matter what. life throws your way, as you push past mediocrity and refuse to settle for anything less than your best, you cultivate resilience, self-respect, and a deeper sense of purpose. The impact of raising your standards goes far beyond personal growth. It affects the way you interact with others and the world around you. As you step into your highest potential, you inspire those around you to do the same. Your commitment to excellence becomes contagious, creating a ripple effect that elevates not just your life, but the lives of those you touch. The most profound success comes not from external achievements, but from who you become in the process. When you live by higher standards, you build a character that can withstand challenges, adapt to adversity, and keep striving for greater heights. The true reward is not just in what you accomplish, but in the person you become along the way. The strong, resilient, and empowered individual who is capable of creating a life that reflects your highest aspiration. Raise your standards, commit to excellence, and in doing so, watch your life transform in ways that go beyond anything you ever imagined.